wake up. Come on, wake up. There you are. There you are. What did I tell you about dozing off during night shifts? If you are going to be a lab assistant during the night shift, you must remain awake and vigilant. Now, lucky for you, we did just receive some exciting news that this lab has just came into possession of an unknown Pokémon egg. No, not an unknown Pokémon species, an egg with an unknown Pokémon inside. There you are. So, now that you are up to speed, let me just finish some data input here, and we will take a look at this egg. Now, I must also inform you that it's quite rare that this lab gets an egg that we are not sure of the Pokemon inside. So this Pokemon could be anything. And as you know, not Pokemon that are a first evolution are not the only Pokemon that can be inside eggs. So this could quite literally be any Pokemon. Now, usually we find an egg that is unknown through either a researcher stumbling upon one in the wild or someone donating one to the lab. So in this situation, this has been a donation. So we must take great care to relish in the opportunity and take care of the Pokemon inside. All right, let's take a look. The egg was given to us in this black satchel here, or bag. So we will just take great care to not disrupt the egg too much. We'll get it used to the feeling of being moved around before we take it out of the bag. As you can hear, that egg, the shell is creaking quite a bit, which that means that this egg is close to hatching. So if we're lucky, we can witness that tonight during our examination. But don't get your hopes up. Sometimes these things take days, if not weeks. So we will just take our time and enjoy the opportunity. Now remember, as Pokemon researchers, it's not just what's inside the egg. That would be your run-of-the-mill Pokemon trainer and things like that. They're just worried about the Pokemon inside and using it in battle. We, of course, are concerned with the entire process of Pokemon egg hatching. So just feeling the shell of the egg, feeling the weight of the egg plus its contents, as well as all of the other small, minute details of the egg, are what we truly enjoy studying. So we will take our time and be thorough in our examination. Let's do a bit of gentle shell tapping. That just tells the Pokemon inside that it is safe to come out, if indeed it is ready. Sometimes the anticipation of seeing what Pokemon is inside is the most exciting part, but I do implore you to be patient. Not too patient, I don't want you falling asleep again, but just relax and enjoy the process. Maybe next time, if you take proper notes and pay attention, I'll let you examine the next egg that we get in. Alright, let's go ahead and open up this bag and see what we have inside. And there we are. Look at that. A beautiful specimen. We do see some cracking there along the, well, actually both lateral sides of the egg. It looks like this Pokemon is definitely ready to hatch at any moment, so don't be surprised or startled if you do see some of that crack start to expand or things like that. So we'll just examine the totality of the crack there. Let's see where the shell seems to be weakest and go from there. So you can see we do have branching, cracking paths on both sides of the egg. So this is your standard Pokemon egg. As you can see, we do have divots along the entirety of the egg surface. That just means that this egg is healthy and sufficiently porous to give nice circulation and breathability to the Pokemon inside. So we will just give a brief physical examination to see if that the porous, almost dimpled surface is properly spread across the entirety of the surface of the shell. Yes, as you can see, the shell seems to be quite weak in that area. Alright, so now let's get just a bit of scratching on that egg surface. This also just helps to almost wake up that Pokemon inside and prepare it for the hatching process. Also gives us more tactile feedback on the surface of the egg. Quite fascinating. Just allow me to make a few notes. So we do have double branching cracks along both lateral sides of the egg. We do have sufficient dimpling across the entirety of the egg surface. It looks like the egg is, I would say, 99. Would you say 99.4 or 99.8% hatched? Really? 99.6. I'll go with your observation there. I'll make a note that you indeed made that observation. That way you do get credit. Perfect. Alright, back to our examination of the surface of the shell. Let me just feel that weight there. Sometimes it's beneficial to feel the realistic weight of the egg in your hand as you perform your physical examination. So let's get a better feel of the cracking in that shell. Once again, just some tapping to assess the density and reverberation of that shell. Let me know if you can hear a clear change in reverberation as I tap. That indicates weak spots or parts of the shell that have already begun to crack. Let's try the front of the shell. I hear that too. That almost more hollow sound means that the resulting cracking around this area has produced almost a eventual opening for the egg, so I'm sure when the Pokemon hatches, this will almost be the first part to come off and provide the opening needed for the Pokemon. Alright, let's just get a bit more of our tapping. Alright, allow me to make some notes. Tapping yielded no additional cracking. Hatch still at 99.6. Alright, I have another trick, but before we do that, let's see if maybe we can get a quick measurement without disrupting the hatching process too much. So we will just use a standard ruler here. We do like to be a bit traditional here in our measuring processes, so always use your traditional wood ruler, and don't let me catch you using a metallic ruler. They just make the most, I think, atrocious sounds when coming in contact with the shell of the egg. So wood rulers as long as you are in my lab, please. Alright, let's get a quick measurement there. Perfect. And on this side, there we are. And across the top. There we are. And across the width here. Perfect. And that's all we need. Now that trick that I spoke of earlier, we will do what I like to call a bit of bubble wrapping therapy. So this almost traditional looking bubble wrap, this will actually provide just enough insulation to the exterior of the eggshell, and that added heat might just increase that hatch percentage just enough to initiate a hatch. So what we will do is we will just gently drape this over the egg and then perform a few tapping measures and other things on the shell while it has the insulation on top. So let's go ahead and begin. Just nice and gentle. As you can hear, that creaking of that egg is responding positively to the added warmth from the bubble wrap insulation. So what we will do is we will just gently perform movements on that bubble wrap too. Just help soak in that heat and keep that bubble wrap as snug and close-fitting as possible. And we would just kind of utilize hand motions similar to what you would find in a gentle massage if we did have time for such things. As Pokemon researchers, of course, we spend the majority of our time in the lab. This is one of the most tried and true measures, or methods, rather, that I've almost patented, almost created here in the lab for use in hatching a variety of Pokemon eggs. As you can hear, we can start to get a few creaks in that eggshell, which that is a good sign. Let's go ahead and get a bit of that elevated position. Sometimes removing it from the table can get just enough airflow under the egg to really add to that heating process. Just kind of moving it around the air can kind of get a bit more airflow. That should do it. Let's go ahead and remove the bubble wrap. Perfect. Let's get just a feel there. Yes, that is quite a bit warmer. Let's test the creaking of those cracks in the shell. As you can see, that crack is starting to create a shell compromising area, which will allow that Pokemon to come forth, I believe, very soon. As you can see in this area here, we are getting quite a bit of movement. Alright, let me make a few notes. So, increased heat. I would estimate 99.9. I think we are very close. One more method that I've had quite a bit of success with is just a bit of gentle brushing. Brushing the area where that shell has already cracked can remove just enough of that unseen debris to really kickstart the hatching process. Let's get this side here, elevate just a bit. just a bit of the front there. All right, let's see how we are coming along. There is quite a bit of movement in that eggshell. I think we are just about ready. We are. Now, my friend, let me make a note that brushing did increase hatch rate to 100%. Now, let's take care and enjoy seeing what Pokemon we have inside. Any guesses? Could be. And not to rush anything. Just gently helping that shell work its way and that loose piece to come loose. And look at that. A beautiful clefable specimen. And as you can see, a beautifully healthy clefable at that. Quite small. So let me, don't worry. The Pokemon, as soon as they hatch, are usually quite small for their species and tend to grow, of course, prior to hatching. So we do have a clefable. Healthy. Of course, they won't do much movement for now, so we will leave it in the shell casing and we will send it over to the nursery to have it taken from the egg and put into a comfortable environment for its first evening in the Pokemon world. Alright, so we did get brushing, bubble wrap treatment, tapping, and a quick measurement. Alright, well, like I said, you have just witnessed the beauty of Pokemon hatching. It's such a mysterious process and such a rewarding one to witness. So this clefable will no doubt grow happy and healthy here at the lab nursery and then be released into the wild to live freely, or if it chooses to join a trainer, it may do so. But nonetheless, it will live a very happy life, and you are one of the first people to lay eyes on it. So congratulations. It's an honor and a privilege. I will go ahead and get this clefable sent over to the nursery and get it taken care of. Please, can you take this to the nursery for me? Thank you. Well, with that said, we will go ahead and finish up any of the notes we need to take. I suggest that you make copies of that note work that you did there. This will be very handy when you take your boards and hopefully become a fully licensed Pokemon professor, or at least researcher. Excellent. Well, I will go ahead and finish up here. You can take the rest of the night off after you finish your notes. Well, we've earned it. Of course, I do have a bit more work, but go enjoy your night. Excellent. All right. Well, we will see you bright and early in the morning. And bring me an extra cup of coffee if you don't mind. It might be a long night. Thank you.